listening to the Dynamic Women podcast. Each week, you'll be inspired by our global community of women. They'll share with you tools and stories to help you be dynamic in every area of life. Here's your host, award-winning coach, and the CEO and founder of Dynamic Women, Diane Ralston.
Do you want to know how to build a team quickly, easily, and cheap and go from self-employed to full entrepreneur? Well, hello, lovely dynamic women, and welcome to the Dynamic Women podcast. I'm Diane Ralston, your host, and I'm so excited to have Kris Ward here with us today. She is going to give you back time. And I know as entrepreneurs, as busy professionals, as moms, as caregivers to so many, we definitely need your help, don't we, Kris?
I think so.
Your help. We definitely need your help. So we are going to go through talking about how to build that team quickly. And whether, you're self-employed or not, you probably have ways and areas in your life where you can really benefit from Kris's help. So let me share a little bit more about Kris, and then we're going to dive in to what we're talking about today. So Kris Ward is the leading authority in building your business by building your team. Kris is the founder of the Win the Hour, Win the Day philosophy. She helps entrepreneurs easily double their income and triple their time off. That's definitely something we all strive for. After the loss of her husband, Kris returned full-time to her work as a marketing strategist. She was thrilled to see that her business had not only survived her absence, but was thriving. And now Kris has completely changed the landscape for entrepreneurs by sharing the successful practices that allowed her absence. And Kris has been interviewed by one of the original sharks from Shark Tank, Kevin Harrington, and ABC's The Secret Millionaire, James Malinchak. And she has been featured on award-winning podcasts, radio, and TV shows throughout North America. So welcome, Kris.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. I'm a fan. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. And, I'm sure through this and through learning more about you, I already know some, but we're going to go deep, but we're also going to cover the really important things that so many people strive for, no matter really what they're doing in life. People want freedom, time freedom.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for that. And just so everybody knows, this is going to be a no nonsense conversation with all the secrets. So Kris is going to share how you can build a team so that you can get the real work done. And it's the work that lets you have a bigger impact on your audience and make more money. That's not something that everyone can really guarantee here. And so on average, Kris will get her clients back about 25 hours a week in just the first month. So you're going to want to hear about this. So let's go through this. First of all, I'm just curious, how did you get into what you're doing?
Well, as you told a little bit about my story there, I'm a marketing strategist, and I was pulled away from my business when my husband was diagnosed with colon cancer. And so, that in itself, if you take the emotion out of it, it all of a sudden it's a job that grows really quickly with, appointments and chemo and all this other stuff. And so what was happening was, all of a sudden, like I really wasn't there at all. I was maybe putting in an hour a week. And when I returned after the death of my husband, after his passing, my clients had no idea of what was going on. They didn't know anything I was going through. I mean, I'll be honest, it's not good for business. I didn't want people to know what's going on. And I also didn't want to talk about it. I was a very positive person. We had a positive plan. And so I didn't need all that sort of petting and stroking that you kind of get when you're going through that. And I don't mean to minimize people's attempt to care, but it was just not where I wanted my energy. So I came back and they started to gently ask me like, well, how did you do that? Because understanding the demands of what I went through emotionally and schedule wise and everything. And so I had a renewed commitment to how fragile life is, and that, your business should support your life and not consume it. And, I was, of course, really exceptionally grateful because, that's quite a lifestyle change when you lose your best friend and all these things happen. And let's be honest, again, take the emotion out of it. I also lost a paycheck. So if I had come back to a business that was no longer in existence, that would not have been the time to try to be charming in a job interview and learn a new skill, right? And a new job. So everyone started asking me about this really gently. And I started working with them under the capacity of their business and building their team, right? Because they were zoning out when they were with their family, working crazy hours, like a
Mm.
addict, always hiding and trying to answer emails when no one's looking.
Yeah.
And they were getting so frustrated because their dreams are always, their business was alive, but they had these bigger ambitions and dreams, and it was just getting more and more frustrating. So we started working together under that capacity of, team building. And they started taking real vacations, and they started getting, time off and making more money. And they were very generous in their praise. Some said I saved their life or their marriage or whatever. And I just thought, you know what? We need to help more people. Business should be fun. And I need to share this with more, get this out there in more hands, because there is this beating of the drum that we should be grinding it out. And that's what entrepreneur means in another language, like, sweat it out. And so I just wanted to help more people. So I wrote the book, and from there it's grown to this and a platform. And right now we're on the verge of releasing our first info product, the outsourcing playbook for busy entrepreneurs, more results, less you. So that's how it all evolved, is just a compassion and a caring for, there's more to life than just, confusing sweat with success.
Yeah. There's so many things I can go off of. First of all, I love how you designed how you wanted your experience to be during that time, and how you wanted to keep your business life separate from really the tragedy and trauma that you were going through at the time. I have 5 people in my circle who last year lost their husband to cancer.
Mm-hmm.
My father has colon cancer. And so while I'm not caring for him, I've seen in my friends how it completely takes them away from the life they had. And the fact that you were very clear about your guidelines, I just want to really highlight that, because that is very brilliant in the way that you were able to show up as you wanted to show up in your career, in your business, and by making that decision. And so I know other people are going through different things, and to have one place where you don't have to talk about it, you don't have to, you can kind of escape for a little while.
Yeah. We did that as a team though too, John and I, because we made an agreement in the beginning. Here's how we looked at it. We said, okay, if the doctors are, wrong, then we sat around holding hands crying for a couple of years. And if the doctors are right, we sat around holding hands crying for the last couple of years. So our whole approach to this, even personally, was, it was all about being positive. It was living in the moment. It was, I planned some surprises for him and some trips and big things and opportunities. And that took planning, I made this huge, big surprise birthday party one year, and then took him to England to see family he hadn't seen in a while. And that was all time consuming. So it was our approach to be positive and not to zone into it. Now, and I'll tell you, one of the hardest things in telling the story wasn't the emotion, is that we never used the C word. We never ever said cancer. We always said, if we had to, we said, well, he was diagnosed, but he didn't want that to be part of his identity. So learning to say that out loud afterwards, to share this with your audience and other people, that was the biggest stumbling block I had. But we really just felt like there's always something to complain about, and that wasn't what we were going to complain about. So it was a very tactical plan, but it was more just about keeping in the moment and being positive.
Yeah. Wow. And so how interesting that many businesses are built from our life experience and from really just what we're good at. And so I've talked to a lot of people, like, clients of mine, like, what do people come to you for? What are they asking you about? What do they want to know about? So what for you had you make that decision of, I'm going to pursue this because, people want to know about it, rather than going back to the marketing that you were doing?
Well, I am still a marketing strategist, and we still do. Apparently not a good one because I can't say it, but I am still a marketing strategist, and we still have that company, and we still have marketing clients, and they just seem to come by word of mouth. And, for me, the turning point was when I realized you could really change your life by simply starting your team. And again, I was humbly grateful that I returned to a business that could support me when, you know, when you come back, you're in a bit of a fog and you've got a lot of changes in your life that are just very confusing and everything's upside down. And we had quite a friendship and a partnership. So I lost a lot of resources that I had before. So when people kept asking me more and more questions, I just wanted to help, and it just kept growing and growing. So it's what you see of me when, you know, I'm promoting stuff online, because I want to start a movement. I want people to understand that there's more to it than this, and that, you know, you shouldn't have to sacrifice your family and your life for your dreams. And, you know, that's what I want to do. But I'm still all about marketing, and I have marketing clients, and we use that to talk about all our platforms, you know, the outsourcing playbook for busy entrepreneurs. So nothing's changed. I guess I've just, I now have two passions. I guess that's it.
Yeah. And so would you say you work 50-50 on them, or one more than the other?
I guess so. I would say 50. It depends, like anything in life, it's fluid. I would say 50-50, 60-40, depending on what's going on with, you know, with the business. So I'm, again, I have a team, I promote teams. So I'm very blessed that I can execute at a high level. You know, like in the last 6 months, I also started a podcast, Win the Hour, Win the Day podcast. It's more general and it's about how to get to your next win. But these things I can all execute because I have that team. So I guess I just never, because that's in play and done well, I, you know, it just kind of organically happens as things evolve.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, with what you were saying also about the grind not being kind of the blood, sweat, and tears isn't the way it needs to be, and this new movement. So what would you say if you were like carrying that movement flag? What would your flag say?
You know, I think the biggest misconception, so many people think that once you arrive, or once you get to a certain peak of the mountain, or once you make a certain amount of income, that then you can afford the time and the luxury to build a team. And that would be the mindset of, you know, the old school mentality or an employee mentality. You know, you need desks, you need money, you need computers, you know, you have to hire somebody for 10 hours a week, but you only really need them 4. There's all that happening, but we live in such a magical place now, and the resources are phenomenal and continue to be so every year. So let me tell a quick story. When I started outsourcing, you know, like I think it was about 8 years ago, what was happening, you know, 8 years ago seems like a very long time in sort of business and technology right now. And I was still going to physical meetings. I would go in somebody's room, we were talking about their marketing, and I would be sitting there in their office taking notes on my lap, and, you know, even in my iPad, whatever. And I'd come back to the office and I would raise my fist to the sky that as soon as I got back, I would put the notes in the file, everything would be good. So that never happened. And what was happening was every Friday afternoon, I would have all these notes from the week. And the problem is these notes were written to be like, you know, transferred in 20 minutes, not days later. So sometimes I wasn't sure what package I promised, or if I gave them a discount, oh my gosh. And then if they called and I was kind of guessing, what if I gave them the wrong price because they'd asked for this special deal or something, I would look like I'm trying to swindle them when in fact I just had poor notes. So, you know, I just thought, this is nuts. This went on for a while. And as certain as every day ended with the letter Y, all these promises I made, how much I beat myself up, it just never happened. So I found someone who, you know, did the transcription for me. So I would leave these meetings, sit in my car for 30 seconds. I would talk directly into my phone. She would put them directly into the file. I got all my Friday afternoon back. I didn't have the guilt of in beating myself up all week. And because God love her, she only liked doing transcriptions and that's all she did. She was really fast. So some weeks I used her for an hour. Some weeks I didn't need her at all. But the weeks I did use her, it was like about $12. So $12 gave me all of Friday afternoon off, got rid of all this guilt and everything. And from there, it kind of snowballed, like, oh my gosh, okay, great. Now I've got this time to work creatively on a different project. So that was the gem or the germ of it all for me. And it kind of just blossomed from there. And that's what I want people to hear when they think about building a team. It's not like, okay, now I've made X amount of dollars and I can hire my first person and give them vacation. You just don't have to do that anymore. So $12 started to change my life and it snowballed from there. And that's what I want people to understand. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes it does take that the rock in the shoe sort of thing to get that
Yeah.
push happening. But I wonder how many people are tolerating something that's not working for them, or who's suffering. So I totally believe in delegating. I believe in bringing a lot of people onto the team. I don't have an office with a bunch of people in it. That's the traditional way, as you said. So when should people start their team?
That is an awesome question. And, when I'm working with my coaching clients, we do this 90-day cycle program. And that's always the first question they ask me. And what I would tell you is, in the magical world, it would have been day one. And if you didn't do it day one, then today's the next best day, right? So it's just whatever it is you're doing, you can start to accelerate your business. Because to me, team means together, everyone amplifies money, right? And you can just start making more money and getting more things done if you have a team. And you can afford $12. And that $12 I spent on the outsourcer gave me a whole afternoon, which created more money. And then I had a little bit more to spend. So really, you want to start like right away. There's just no reason to delay.
Yeah. And even for the people that are saying, well, I work a 9 to 5. I don't have the need for this. There's always laundry. There's always your house cleaning. There's always something to be done. I know that I've looked to outsource a lot of things around my home and in my life as well. And that's given me a lot of hours back. It's been fantastic. So what are those big mistakes that people make when team building? Because I think we can learn from that. Maybe you made mistakes. I know I've made some mistakes. What would you say are things that you see happening?
The biggest mistake I would think is people will say to me, look, they when they're working with me, whether they're a marketing client or whatever, and they see my team and they think, oh my gosh, she's got this great team. And or my clients will tell me that their colleagues are now jealous of them because like, oh, they've got this great team. So you get seduced into thinking that whatever, I now have, Sarah, and like, oh, Kris got lucky. She found Sarah. Like, and people will say, well, can you loan her out, or can you, can I borrow her? And that's like saying, I'm really close with my sister. Would you like to have that relationship? You can borrow her for a weekend. Like it's because she has been trained in my processes. So what I want people to know is you're not looking for this magical fairy or this magical person. It really is in your hiring process. And there's simple things you can do, but you have to have a plan and a playbook, and a blueprint and all that stuff. And it's kind of like if my accountant said to me, you know what, Kris, you really need a better tax strategy. And then I come back 6 months later and say that I tried it, it didn't work. And so, well, what do you know about that? So people jump up and say, okay, you're right. I need to start building a team. And then they come back and say, I think you're wrong. The economy these days, or kids don't want to work, or my job is different. It can't be, you don't understand. Well, it wasn't that. It was you had no plan. You have no that's not your area of expertise or talent, and you've had no training. And that's why I put so much passion into the book, into the platform, is so that people can get these things easily. But jumping up thinking, aha, I need a team, and then running out and starting it, coming back and it failed, that's not based on environmental issues. That's because you had no strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's great that you support people to do that. I can remember when I, have hired people in the past. I won't give any specifics, but just, it wasn't working out like I thought it would. And I can remember exactly the day I'm running on a treadmill, I'm listening to this podcast, and the person was talking about hiring and talking about your team. And she said, maybe you're an entrepreneur. That's awesome. And that's doing all this great stuff. And then you're thinking, why is my employee or my person on contract or the person on my team, why are they not doing really well? I must have hired the wrong person. I need to fire them and hire someone else. And what she said was, the problem was you and how you trained them and your expectation that they're going to be another you. That they are not going to be you. If they were you, they would have their own business. So
it's even worse than that. If I can, be so bold, is a couple of things. Is often people will say, let me back up for a second. So first of all, training can be super easy, right? You start off small. You can say to someone, look, I've never had an assistant before. So in this beautiful world we're in right now, you can say, look, I'm going to start you out about 3-6 hours a week. This can grow. I don't really know how much But these are the variables that you can work with now, as opposed to making a commitment to someone buying a desk and a computer.
Yes.
So what will happen is you start off and you could be doing something that you have to do every day. You screen capture with a free platform and you send them a 2-minute video and you say, look, I now want you to do this. And also, can you write out the steps I gave you? And then we have a process for the next person, or if you're not in tomorrow or whatever. So the training thing is just something that you can unfold easily as you're doing your own work and hand it off. It doesn't have to be this big thing that when you get 3 weeks, you're going to put all this muscle into, because frankly, that will backfire because you'll miss steps because you're so used to doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you just want to do little segments, give it to them, and that's great. The second thing is, people often come to me and they'll say, okay, I was speaking with someone just this week and she realized she's at a choking point with her business and she said, I do need help. So what I've hired is somebody to do my posts on social media as me. And then I'm going to hire a marketing person, just to do my marketing, like not a coach or not to help you with your marketing or a strategy, but I'm going to hire like a virtual assistant to do my marketing online. So what's happening is she's hiring people that really like she should be reporting to. Like, how can somebody who's new to your organization act as you online in social media? It's not going to work. Now, there are things they can do in social media to help you. So for example, sometimes right now where we're talking a lot about the outsourcing playbook for busy entrepreneurs, people ask me questions. And even for me, when I type them out, I'll copy and paste them and put them on a Google Doc, because I'll notice eventually I'm going to have 10 sample answers. And even for me, I can copy and paste and put them into different questions rather than type out. There's only so many different ways I can answer that question, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes my team might see somebody that says, oh, I'm really frustrated, I'm thinking of hiring someone. And they could take those words that I have already used a bunch of times because it's on that sheet and just stick it in there. So they're recycling my responses because I can't be online all day. That works. But then you're going to hire somebody who you have to be finding your own voice on social media all the time. I'm learning like, oh, this resonates with people, or they like this word, not that word. So you can't have somebody come in and deal with your heartaches or your headaches and then look at them and go, well, I don't know how to do it and you have no training, and why is this not working out? So there is the different paths of trying to hire someone just like you, which not only are they not an entrepreneur, but that's very limited. You want to hire somebody with a different skill set. I personally want to be the dumbest person in the room. I want a team supporting me with their excellence and me being sort of the hub of the wheel. But then also don't just say, all right, restaurants are famous for this. They'll hire a restaurant manager when they own the restaurant. They just think, oh, they'll know how to manage it. But I'm running around like a crazy person and somehow they'll magically manage me even though I pay them. So it just doesn't have to be so big and heavy. Just start small and have success with it, and don't turn it into a big thing.
Yeah. So people are thinking about hiring a traditional role, like a proper job description title role, when really it's just what task do you want done, and then who's the expert that can do it. So the social media piece, just the posting, or like you said, just the transcribing, or maybe just the podcast management, like what piece can they do? Yeah.
And it will grow from there.
Exactly.
Because people do get confused. They'll be like, they confused as someone in social media helping you to, and they'll make my graphics pretty and edit my video and do my posting. Well, those are 3 very different tech areas, right? So what I would say is, you know what, you're new. Even when you go through our playbook and the clients that we have in our coaching program, even though they've had a lot of our skill set on hand, you still, why go from 0 to 100? You just say, okay, I'm hiring somebody from 3 hours. And then it's so easy. And you just get so excited, like me with the transcription. It's like, oh my gosh, I got Friday afternoon off. Okay, what else can I do? And success breeds success. So don't sit down and make it a big, heavy project that has to have like a beginning, middle, and end, and then think you're just going to hand it off to someone and it's never going to be revised. You're always going to have ambitions and dreams. Your work's going to evolve. So you'll have to know the skill set of rinse and repeat hiring and editing process as you go along.
Yeah. And that thing around, you want to be the dumbest person in the room. My feeling to kind of add to that is you want to be passionate about what you're passionate about and let other people get excited about what they're doing. So I often use taxes as my example of like, I'm not a fan of doing taxes. I don't like to do that stuff. And it just drains my energy. But to talk with someone about who loves taxes, and feel their energy around it.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know in my house that my taps could glisten the way they do. And then because my cleaner is passionate about cleaning properly and cleaning really well. And so that amount of, not just you're saving people time by helping them do this, you're saving the energy so that they can be creative in the things they're actually passionate about. Because when I think about taxes, doing them, it just drains my energy. I talk slower. I'm like slumped down. I'm like, whoa, right? And it would take me much longer than hiring the experts. So it's around leveraging. But I'm curious, what are some of like the biggest myths that are out there around outsourcing, around hiring online?
Yeah, that's a great question. I get that one a lot on my website, www.winthehourwintheday.com. And the biggest ones is people think like, you know, even when I did this 8 years ago and I had my first transcriptionist, especially back then, they have this idea that that person's driving to work on a chicken, right? Or they don't speak English, or there's all these variables that, you know, are like, okay, yeah, it's economical, it's flexible, it's accommodating, it could not be better, but that somehow I'm like a static interconnection with Mars and they don't speak my language. That's not the case at all. In case you haven't all figured out, I have a bad habit of speaking quickly. And I would tell you that my team all speak better English than I do. And so they think there's language barriers. They think there's just all kinds of obstacles that interfere with that. Or people will say, well, how do you know what they're doing the work? Especially people that I have a cousin who speaking of taxes, he's an accountant. And he's like, well, how do you know your team's doing the work when half my team's virtual? I'm like, well, what are you sitting in your office like with a slate and a chalk? No, you're all working on computers and you see the work coming through your computer. Frankly, if I have to sit there and beside you and supervise you to make sure that you're still working, that's a problem. But the work always comes through the computer and they get assignments and they get done. And if that's not enough for you, many of these platforms have screen captures where every 10 minutes you could monitor that they'll show you the screen that they're working on. So there's a whole bunch of ways to manage that if you have insecurities in that area. I've never needed to. I assign stuff, it gets done. What's there to ask, right? So there's all these imaginary obstacles. And I'm just here to tell you, it could not be more seamless. Like that's where I go crazy is like, oh my gosh, people, if you knew how easy it is and how much it would change your life, that, 90 days from now, you'd be working half the time, but with much bigger results. As one of my clients said to me, she goes, oh, Kris, you're a dream catcher, because all my dreams, I was just moving further and further away from them. And now I can get stuff done. So that's the exciting part.
Yeah. And when you hire someone or you bring someone on to do a task, do you believe in hiring and paying on the project or paying on the time?
So most of the time, I would say 80% of the time, I believe I'm paying on the project. Okay. So there's almost always I pay on the project because they should know how long that's going to take. So we are in agreement. This is what you're going to do. And even if it's like a graphic designer one graphic designer that works with us, I'd say about 20 hours a week ish. But there is about 10 different things he does on a regular basis, whether it's banners or this, like just a constant rotation of these variables. And we have a price point for each one of them, like a banner is this amount of dollars, whatever, right? Now, the only one I pay for by hour would be my virtual assistant, because it is an hourly job. It's just got so many different variations. It just could not be a project.
Yeah.
But I believe in paying by the project.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people are like, well, I don't know how many hours it'll take them to do this or do that. And I'm concerned about the money. And so if you already agree to that project up front, then that makes it a lot more manageable to know what the expectations are.
It does. But again, take that transcriptionist in hand. First of all, I would tell you that most of the time you're going to be shockingly surprised. It's going to be way less money than you thought it would be, right? So for $12, I got all Friday afternoon off. So even if I had been wrong and it was like $30, I would have still paid $30 to have all Friday afternoon off, right? But what I also can tell you is, depending which platform you're using, depending which assignment you have, if it was something per hour, you can cap it, that they have to log in, depending again which platform and what the arrangements. There's a bunch of variables, but you can say, well, this is a new person, they've got 3 hours and it's capped and they can't charge you past those 3 hours. So there's for every scenario you can give me, I can tell you that there is more security and things in play than ever was in an employee situation. Like, this is way more sophisticated than, hiring an employee back in the day.
Yeah. And which platforms do you like for hiring online?
Well, each one has pluses and minuses and different things. So one of the bigger ones is Upwork. It used to be Odesk, and that's great. One of the minuses is they take 10% off everything forever. If you keep that employee for the next 30 years, you and them are paying 10% off that. They're great for middle of the road type stuff. Some people are familiar with Fiverr, and that's great for one-offs if you need something a little bit more like just maybe a cover of a book. Philippine Online is really great for virtual assistants. Now they have a monthly fee, so you might pay $60 for the month, but you put up a job post, you get what you need, and then you don't go back there until this time next year if you need to hire a couple of people. So it really depends on what you're looking for, and the position has a big play in it, and then the pluses and minuses of the platform and how they serve you as a platform. Yeah,
there is a lot of protection for the person hiring, I have found, using Upwork and such. It's a lot safer than I think people think, because they're maybe thinking about, I go on Craigslist and pop on there about a job, or I jump on someone's site. But having that middleman of one of these platforms has been really helpful for me and a lot of my clients in knowing that they're taken care of, right? Their money's in escrow. It's not going to be released until the job's completed really well. And so it does give you that opportunity to have that back and forth without there being, you getting duped or screwed over, basically. So it's awesome.
It's much safer than having an employee. I'll tell you something, I try to be a positive person, so I don't share this story very often, but I'll tell you, since you brought it up, is I do have in-house staff for sure. And but when I had an assistant in-house, so let's say I've got 5 employees. So I used to have 2 in-house or whatever. Anyhow, I had hired somebody and she was coming into the office, and I was starting to get the idea that maybe things weren't working out. This was about 8-9 years ago. Anyhow, somebody had come to me that we had just done a big contract work, and he was like a tree guy that did a lot of work, arborist. So he paid me in cash. I put it in the drawer. It was $900, and it was like a week before Christmas. And the next day, $900 was gone, and she never came back. And to this day, I kept thinking, well, maybe somehow it got lost. Like, I just can't believe somebody would steal from you. So when people talk to me about virtually being safe, I'm like, listen, $900 a week before Christmas. And since you guys know, it was also like the first Christmas John had been diagnosed. So I didn't even tell him, because I got this, we just had this new information that came. It was weighing heavy on us. He did not need to know that. It was a week before Christmas. So don't talk to me about how safe you are with the virtual world, because it was like, okay, then, all right, let's keep moving. So
that's brutal.
It's just a completely different world when you're outsourcing. And that's why I go insane and passionate about it, is because it's so much easier, and it will amplify your business and your results so much more. And any other way than doing this is just making it hard on yourself.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of people think there are so many costs, though, to hiring. And, if I'm going to get on some of these platforms, then the platform costs me, or I need to put security into place. That costs me. I need to train them. It costs me. But what are really like the costs of doing it all on your own?
Well, doing it all on your own, first of all, like you just, think of it something like, let's say I'm a chef and I make a really fancy plate of food, and it's like, okay, and the plates are $40 a plate. You're going to have a little teeny restaurant where maybe it only seats like 12 people. So doing it do I have somebody at the door seating those people and somebody washing the dishes and a sous chef so that I can get $40 plates out and get maybe 100 plates out tonight? Or am I going to do the groceries and sit the people at the table, do all that, and then, excuse me, I just have to wash some plates. So now we're cutting it down to I'm serving like maybe 10 people a night. So there's the math. It's very simple. And when you are like running around trying to learn just enough to get by, I'm telling you, you just wear yourself down to the bone. You're exhausted. You're not nearly as creative. You will be having real professional jealousy as you look around, see people moving further and further ahead because you're not keeping up. That's just, the costs are hugely endless. Like people will say to me, oh my gosh, you wrote a book, you got a podcast, you're doing this, how did you get done? Well, I have a team. So it really is painful. To me, work is when one requires knowledge. You need somebody to give you knowledge and to move on that. And the other thing I would tell you is the talent is often connected to the technology. So just recently, my video editor who does all like videos and my podcast stuff, she showed us a program, Descript. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Descript, Descript. So when you're shooting a thing like this and we're videotaping it, you could right click if I say, and they will say, do you want us to remove all filler words? So every time your guest says, they take it all out. Now she showed me that and a bunch of other little tricks that it can do because that's all she does. So she's in that, arena and she's getting all the latest technology where I wouldn't be rubbing elbows with those people. So she showed me the features of this. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so cheap. It was like $50. It had all these cool tricks. So the talent and technology are really embedded together. And you just really want to be the entrepreneur, the visionary that says, where's the next place I can make money and how quickly can I get there?
True. Yes. So even though it's going to cost you, if we think of it, it's going to cost you the money to pay her. It's going to cost you for the software. The amount of time that is saved by that software doing that job is huge. It's a lot more than paying someone. So,
and I want to pick on you with the word cost, because I would tell you that not only A, is it investment, but B, it always covers the expenses. So what I would say to you is that software is $50. I now own it. So like that $50 for the next 3 years, who cares? Right. And then my video editor, like I can't remember when we do videos, I think for the podcast, I think it's $10 a show. Like we're talking, if you drink coffee, you can afford a coffee, you can afford a lot of these services. So what I would tell you is the fees are so minimal that you really can't even count them. Like they cover themselves. Back to the transcriptionist, you could say, well, that cost you $12, Kris. Did it? I got Friday afternoons back and I stopped beating myself up all week. So, that $12, like it just didn't count. It just didn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I use the word cost, I'm meaning because a lot of people who are in this place of, I can't afford that. That's 100%. What they're thinking of it.
Yeah.
Because, even I looked at things like certain things that integrated with Infusionsoft, or even some special higher level in my send out cards account. I look at it and I go, okay, well, what is the pricing of that?
Yeah.
And then what is like the price for me to pay my assistant to do that, because she has to manually do it rather than it be automated. And I'm like, that's $50. Her hourly rate times how many hours.
Yeah.
This is $200. This is $50. I just made $150 by using this. And now I can put her on other tasks to save me more time, which is amazing. So I think the real thing here is everyone has to look at, what are the things that you're currently doing? Which tasks do you need to delegate out? How are you going to delegate them out? And rather than just, I can't afford that, or I'm not big enough yet, or I don't have enough sales yet. We need to really be thinking about where we're putting our money and where we're putting our time. And you have the tools to be able to help them to figure that out. So I know you have a lot of free tools that you're offering, free gifts, or some gifts for our listeners. So why don't you let them know what's there and how can they get these gifts?
Yeah, so you can check out free gift from Kris, KRIS.com. And we've got a bunch of, it's like a little treasure box there. We've got a bunch of little things that we can show you that we still charge for. So only your listeners get this. It's not to the, mainstreams here. So check it out, free gift from Kris.com, because I will tell you, if you think you can't afford help, then you really need help. Like that's the sign right there. And just one quick last example, there's lots of people that think what they do is like, oh, nobody else can do this. So I was dealing with one of my clients and she's a designer and she's like, Kris, you don't understand. I go into the homes, I'm the designer. Nobody else can do this. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But we looked at her work and the pre and the post work. So what was taking her an hour and a half, 2 hours, we slimmed down to 40 minutes because she didn't have to do all the admin work pre and post. So she served more people in less time. And then she started taking on other ambitions. She wrote a book. She started doing stage presentations. She was on local TV shows. So then she started having a wider reach and making more money because she wasn't tied to these hourly commitments. And her industry was very hands-on specific. So I just want you to understand, when you also think your job is different, there's always ways to minimize the pre and post work. Yeah.
Yeah. But I like the Les Brown quote, you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. And so I'm hearing that's what you help people do, is to really see, yes, this is a you role and this could be a someone else role. Yeah. And I'm sure there was a spot in her mind where she was thinking, yeah, but it's just 50. I would just save 15 minutes if someone helped me with that. Yeah, but that's 15 minutes times how many clients times every single month. That is your 2 weeks, your 4 weeks that you could go and write a book. And those little pieces, if it is a half hour a week, that is half hour towards writing your keynote for those speeches, or getting another lead, or doing another sales call. So you're bang on it. It's around being in your zone of genius and being paid per hour for the optimal work, for the stuff that pays you the most money, rather than a 10-hour, we often think of the $10 job or minimum wage job compared to your ideal, what you can make an hour, $100, $200, $1,000, whatever it may be.
Yeah, absolutely. You're so right.
So what is the best way for people to get in touch with you so that they can
learn? Right now, check it out, get on our waiting list, because we've got all kinds of really exciting things coming out with this product. So it's coming soon from Kris, KRIS.com. And that would be a phenomenal way to keep in the loop of what some of this we are making an amazing product that will feel like I'm bleeding when I give it away for such a price. Like, we're not messing around with this. We really want it to get in as many hands as possible so that you really can save 25 hours a week within the first month. So do that. Reach out to me on any of the socials and tell me you heard me on this fabulous podcast, because, a friend of Diane's is a friend of mine. And, so do all that.
Yeah. Connect with Kris, basically. And remember, it is Kris with a K. The show notes will have all of the information on there for you. So we'll just kind of wrap up with one final question.
Sure.
Kris, for you, what is the one thing that you want to really leave our listeners with? One next step, one note, one thought, one persuasion. What is that one thing you want to leave our listeners with?
Business should be fun, and I think your business should support your life and not consume it.
Awesome. Yeah. And how you said that comes from such a deep place. I feel that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Kris, to speak with you. I'm really glad we got to do this, because we're in such alignment with our beliefs on this. And I love hearing your passion that you have for it. You're definitely a dynamic woman. I knew that from the moment you sent me that little video intro. It was fantastic. I won't share more about it because that's one of your trade secrets, I think. But it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I encourage all of you out there, stop doing it all on your own. Stop being the lone wolf. Look for ways to really build your team, build your pack, have other people support you. That's the way that you are going to have the ultimate success. That's the way you're going to get forward faster. And as you heard from Kris's story, that is also how you're going to be able to get through life's humps and bumps and tragedies and really come out on the other end fine and get through that time by really leaning on the support of your team and having you all come out for the better. So thank you again, Kris, and all the best to you. And so for those of you listening that are thinking, wow, that was a really great interview, really cool to listen to her expertise, this is what we do at Dynamic Women Podcast. We interview amazing women. And if you have some that you think that I should interview, please email info@dianerolston.com. Also, make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss out on any future podcast interviews or episodes where I give you the inside scoop, give you the tips and tricks in running my business and my life in a balanced way, and receiving, the success that I'm really looking for. So thank you for listening. Thank you to everyone who has supported the Dynamic Women podcast with reviews, and happy to say that we are in the top 50 podcasts by moms, because I am a mom, done by the Podcast Magazine. We are so thankful that we get to come on here every week and provide you with tools and tricks in order to have the success and the balance that you are craving in your life, and to bring you amazing dynamic women. So until next time, stay dynamic. Bye.
Thank you, Dynamic Women, for joining us today. Please hop on over to iTunes to subscribe and leave us a review. Who do you know who needs to hear our message? We'd love it if you'd share our channel with your friends and family. If you're ready to be more dynamic, have more balance and more success, head over to www.dynamicwomenclub.com/free gift for your Key to Success book. Stay dynamic.